It's Shahab.
Shahab from Nashville. What's on your mind, Shahab?
Two things. First, what's going on in Iran, and it's kind of crazy that the Western media coverage of it is completely different. New York Times just posted this thing about that everything is about like economy, and completely brush off like the feminist part of it,
Wow.
which is insane. Yeah,
That is crazy. I mean, it was a woman getting beaten by the killed by the morality police that set it up.
You'd think they want to emphasize that and not the Iran deal. And
yeah. I mean, everything is about Iran deal right now, which is like insane. And then the other thing that I wanted to talk about is the other side of immigration in the United States that I think like usually people don't cover it, and because it can be thought of as the elite part of immigration, people with education, and I'm going through a similar situation right now, and I think it is good to sometimes discuss it.
Well, by all means.
Yeah, so I'm from Iran, and we have a very specific category of visa. Usually the processing time is much longer, between like 4 to 6 months for a J1, H1B sometimes can be like long. And so I've been in the United States for 15 years, haven't been back, haven't seen my parents for a long time, haven't seen my older sister in 15 years.
Aye.
Just because if I go back, coming back to the United States is almost impossible. And I've had friends that went out and then got stuck for like a couple of semesters. And then the other part that is crazy is we don't have access to banking in the United States, and everything is tied to our visa. And right now I'm going through a reclassification. I'm going from an F1 to H1B, and the immigration office at the university that I'm working at kind of filed everything with delay, which I feel like there was a little bit of racism in their response to the whole thing. But the only bank that I could open a checking account is Bank of America. But the moment my visa expired, my F1 visa expired, my account's being restricted and they seized my money.
Oh my God.
So I do not have access to my own funds.
Was this now? Is this a function of your being Iranian, or is this a function of immigration writ large?
Well, it is a function of being an Iranian, but
okay.
Immigrants, even like as students, we have a lot of restrictions about like what we can do, what jobs we can get, and how we are treated in universities. Like I went to UGA for my PhD, and we had Chinese professors would sponsor Chinese students, and they were basically enslaved in school. Like they were not allowed to take any course that he would not agree on. They had to come to work all the weekends. And I worked for this guy for one semester, and he would just yell at everybody, like scream from the bottom of his lungs, just because like somebody did something with like a little bit of delay. And because of like the way everything is structured, like if we lose our funding, it is almost impossible to do anything. We are not allowed, like all the students coming from abroad, we are only allowed to work for the school, and we cannot have any other job or any sort of income. So it ends up being like we are tied to this system that can be extremely abusive. And then you can imagine like, I don't know, sexual abuse and things like that would also happen because you don't really have any protection.
Right.
And then on the job side, we are only allowed to get certain jobs. Like, again, I study theoretical nuclear physics. It's hadron physics, it's particle physics, basically. And as an Iranian, I cannot visit any of the national labs, even though I work with them and get data from them. And when I want to apply to jobs, those jobs are not available to me. And those jobs are also not available to a lot of other immigrants. So we end up having to go to the tech section and just basically you have like these extremely talented people with a lot of research pedigree going to Facebook writing like basically ads, which is such a waste, I think. But yeah, so.
Well, I appreciate you letting people have a sense of that. I think it's much worse than people had any idea of. Thanks for the call. Hang in there.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Shahab.
Bye.
I just wanted to mention too that similarly with the sanctions in Iran, like a lot of my family members in Iran, they can't receive basically either like any goods, any financial assistance, anything like that is all completely cut off. My mother trying to visit her mother to go to Iran the last few years. She's had to go to the Afghan embassy in DC because there's no embassy in Iran to get a visa. And there's almost always certainty that Americans will be kind of surveilled when they go to Iran to visit. So it's just, for both ways of this corridor coming to America from Iran and going back, it's just extremely fraught and very difficult. So I have a lot of sympathy for Shahab there.
Contrast that with Jonathan Haidt, who wrote The Righteous Mind. I don't know if you saw him, but he's leaving a position because of diversity, equity, inclusion requirements. Just the same thing as Brett Weinstein. So, two different things affecting science. One is diversity, equity, inclusion. The other is what Shahab has gone through.